What if the perfect Crawley image wasn't so perfect after all? What if the legacy of Downton Abbey was built on a lie one hidden deep within the family for decades? In the newest film, a secret starts to surface, and this time, not even Lady Mary can control what comes next. Everything the Crawleys have worked to protect, name, title, power may fall apart because of one forgotten truth. Asterisk, the Crawley estate feels calm on the outside. The gardens are in full bloom, and the staff follows their duties with grace. But behind closed doors, tension brews silently. The story begins with a box. Not just any box, but a sealed wooden one found in the old study, buried behind a wall panel. It had been locked away, collecting dust, likely untouched since the days of Lord Grantham. Lady Mary discovers it while trying to reorganize old estate papers. Inside are handwritten letters, faded photographs, and a journal no one knew existed. At first it seems like a private memoir, but something about it feels off. As Mary flips through the pages, she reads a name she doesn't recognize. A woman, a connection that doesn't make sense yet sounds strangely familiar. The journal speaks about meetings, secrecy, and guilt. Mary closes the journal quickly, her hands shaking. She says nothing to anyone, but her silence speaks louder than words. At dinner, she's distracted. Her words are sharp, even for her. Tom Branson notices immediately, but doesn't press her. He knows that when Mary holds something in, it's usually serious. Meanwhile, Lady Edith has returned from London with news of her own. A friend at a publishing house mentioned receiving a strange letter linked to the Crawley name, something about a long-lost relative. Edith, curious and a bit worried, brings it up lightly to Mary, but Mary quickly changes the subject. That night, as thunder rolls over the estate, Mary sits alone in the study, staring at the box. She knows what's inside has the power to destroy everything their family stands for, and yet she can't look away. Downstairs, Mrs. Hughes and Carson speak in whispers about Mary's coldness lately. The house feels different, they say. Something is coming, something no one is ready for. Even the staff can feel the shift, though they don't know why. As old portraits watch from the walls, Downton Abbey stands quietly. Just before the storm. Asterisk, it happened one early morning, just before breakfast, when the rain hadn't yet stopped. Lady Mary sat alone in the library, the journal open in her lap. She had spent most of the night reading it, and the truth had finally revealed itself. The woman mentioned in Lord Grantham's writing wasn't just a passing fancy. She was someone important. Someone who might have been part of the Crawley family without anyone knowing. And worse, she had a child. A child born outside the walls of Downton. A child who might still be alive. Mary couldn't breathe. The idea that her father, Lord Grantham, might have had a secret child shattered her understanding of everything. The journal didn't give a full name for the woman, only initials. CL, but it did speak of deep regret, long nights in London, and payments made quietly over the years to keep things quiet. Mary read and reread those pages, hoping she had misunderstood. But no, the truth was clear now. Later that same day, Lady Edith walked in with a newspaper from London. On the second page was a short story, an anonymous piece from a reader, talking about a noble man from Yorkshire who had paid off a poor working-class woman after she gave birth to his child. The dates matched, the details matched. Edith's eyes widened. "Mary," she whispered, holding the newspaper, This is about us, isn't it?" Mary didn't answer. She simply nodded, her lips tight, her face pale. "You cannot tell anyone?" she said. "Not yet." But Edith, as always, was torn between doing what was right and protecting the family name. As the two sisters stood in silence, Tom Branson entered the room, holding a letter he had received from an old contact in Ireland. It spoke of a woman who had died recently, Clara Langdon, who once worked in service for a noble family in Yorkshire. She had passed away alone, but had left behind a son. A man now in his late 30s south. Mary took the letter and stared at it. Clara Langdon, the initials matched. This could be her. And the son, that meant someone else had Crawley blood? A man with a claim, a man who had no idea who he truly was, or maybe he did. Maybe that's why the article was printed. Maybe He was coming for what he believed was his birthright. Downstairs, the staff whispered. Carson noticed the tension between the ladies. Mrs. Patmore said she had seen Mary burning papers in the fireplace. Daisy heard someone crying in the hall. Everyone felt that something big was happening, and Downton Abbey would never be the same. Again, upstairs, Mary turned to Edith. "If this man is real," she said slowly, "he may try to take everything." "The title, the land, Downton," Edith replied. "Or maybe he just wants to know where he came from." But the question hung heavy in the air. What would happen if the world learned that Lord Grantham had a secret son? The whispers had turned into silence. And in Downton Abbey, silence was louder than any spoken word. A secret like this couldn't be contained for long, not in a house where even the walls seemed to listen. Though the family hadn't told anyone yet, the mood inside. The estate had already shifted. Something was clearly wrong. The meals were quieter, glances sharper, and trust thinner than ever before. Lady Mary had called a private meeting with Tom Branson. She trusted his judgment more than anyone now. In her hands, she held the journal and the letter. What if he's already out there, watching us? What if he's already made his move? She asked, her voice tight. Tom looked her in the eye. Then we need to find him first, before the world does. At the same time, Edith had gone back to London. Her instincts as a journalist had taken over. She wanted answers, real ones. If this man was their half-brother, he deserved to be known. Hiding the truth would only bring shame later. She reached out to her sources. Days passed. Finally, she got a name. James Langdon. He ran a small bookshop in Manchester, quiet, educated, kind. No family, no known connection to nobility, and yet he looked like a Crawley. The resemblance was hard to ignore. While Edith wrestled with the idea of meeting James, Downton began to feel the weight of the secret. Carson could no longer hide his concern. He asked Lady Mary directly if something had happened. She told him to focus on the staff and leave family matters alone. But Carson had been at Downton longer than anyone. He knew when the family was hiding something dangerous. Even Mrs. Hughes warned him, some truths are better not chased. Below the grand staircase, the staff had their own theories. Some thought Lady Mary was ill. Others believed there was a legal battle coming. And a few, like Daisy, wondered aloud if the family might lose Downton altogether. They say a stranger has come to claim the estate, she whispered. And if he's family, could he really take it? Upstairs, tensions exploded. Mary and Edith had their biggest fight in years. Mary accused Edith of betrayal. Edith accused Mary of fear. You think hiding it will save us? It won't, Edith cried. He's out there. And whether we accept it or not, he has Grantham. Blood. Tom stood between them, trying to keep the peace. But even he was torn. As someone who had married into the family, he knew what being an outsider felt like. What if James Langdon was telling the truth? What if he was one of them and had been forgotten his whole life? As the Crawleys struggled to decide what to do, news arrived that made everything worse. A London paper had printed a story hinting at a hidden heir to a great estate. Though no names were mentioned, it was enough. The story was spreading. Downton Abbey had been pulled into a storm, and there was no going back. The truth was no longer a secret. It had reached the edges of society, whispered in drawing rooms, printed between the lines of polished gossip columns, and echoed through estate walls like an old ghost finally given a voice. The Crawleys could no longer hide. The time had come to face what had been buried for decades. Lady Mary stood at the window, her reflection looking back at her with eyes that no longer held pride but worry. Her entire life had been about duty, holding the family together, preserving Downton's legacy. But now, the past was threatening to undo everything she had worked so hard to protect. And worst of all, it was her father's past. Not her mistake, but hers to deal with. In Manchester, Edith finally met James Langdon. He was quiet, polite, and confused. He had no interest in fame or fortune, only the truth. He showed her the letters from his mother. One of them was signed simply R.C., Robert Crawley, Lord Grantham. There was no denying it now. James was his son. And Edith felt something unexpected relief. He wasn't here to take anything. He simply wanted to know who he really was. Back at Downton, the family gathered. Mary, Tom, Edith, and even young George. It was Mary who spoke first. He exists, and he is our blood. The room was silent. Tom nodded slowly. So, what do we do? Mary's eyes didn't leave the fireplace. We tell the truth, and we live with it. The decision wasn't easy. There were risks. The title of Earl might be questioned. The estate might face legal trouble, but hiding it would be worse. Downton had always been built on dignity and honor even when it was difficult. So they opened the doors. James Langdon visited Downton Abbey quietly, no press, no drama. He walked the halls of the house his father had once ruled, feeling both out of place and strangely at home. He stood in the library where Lord Grantham had once read to Mary and Edith. He placed a hand on the edge of a chair and whispered, "I don't want anything. Just to know, I came from here." Carson, now older and more reflective, watched the man with sharp eyes. But he said nothing. Perhaps he understood. Downton had seen wars, deaths, marriages, and miracles. And now it had witnessed something new truth. Painful, but freeing. In the end, the Crawleys didn't lose Downton. But they gained something else, a new understanding of who they were. Not perfect, not untouched by scandal, but real, human, stronger somehow. For facing the truth together. And as the camera pulls away from the great estate once more, the sun sets behind Downton Abbey, its walls holding one more story, one more secret finally spoken, and a future no longer afraid of the past.